Cervical cancer used to be one of the most common causes of cancer death for American women. But since the mid-1970s, that death rate has dropped by more than half due to prevention and screenings, according to the American Cancer Society. Now, even more lives could be saved after the FDA approved the country's first at-home cervical cancer screening tool, essentially an alternative to the pap smear. To learn more about this medical breakthrough, we are joined now by Dr. Rahma Mkuu, an assistant professor of health outcomes and biomedical informatics at the University of Florida's College of Medicine. Thank you, Dr. Mkuu, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So, wow, so many of us, I'll include myself, dread getting the pap smear. Of course, you've got doctors who have to use that cold metal speculum to, go beyond the vagina and then, get to the cervix. And it can be uncomfortable, for some even painful. So how big of a medical breakthrough is this when it comes to women's health now?
This is a big deal. I have to say that it is a very exciting time for women, especially. I'm not the only one who does not find the pap smear to be a very exciting procedure. What this means for women is that they can take their health into their own hands. And the biggest barrier to getting the pap smear done, as you mentioned, is the uncomfortableness of the test. But it's also time, as I'm a mom of a toddler myself. So finding the time to go to the doctor's office is a big barrier. So what this new breakthrough means is that women can take that test home. They can self-swab. They can swab the cells themselves in the comfort and privacy of their home. And then they can mail the test back to the doctor's office. And then the doctor's office or the lab will then tell them if they have the HPV virus, which is the leading cause of cervical cancer. So it is a game changer for women.
Help us to understand the science behind this, Dr. Mkuu. How did this breakthrough come together? And I want you to explain to us, this particular test is testing for the HPV virus versus what does the pap smear do?
Yes, specifically this particular test, this breakthrough happened, first of all, because we know that in the literature, women have voiced, study after study shows that women have shared that the pap smear, the pain is the biggest barrier, and time, of course. So this breakthrough came to being as a way to make it easier for women to get screened. The difference between this technology and a pap smear. So that's the next question. When you go to the doctor's office and they conduct a pap smear, what they're doing is they're going into your body to retrieve cells. They're going to look at the cells to see if there's any cervical abnormality. So if there's any signs of early or sometimes, unfortunately, it's late stage cervical cancer. So they're physically looking at those cells. At the same time, doctors can also look at those cells and test to see if the HPV virus is present. So this new test looks at just whether or not a woman has the HPV virus. We know that the HPV virus is the leading cause of cervical cancer. 99% of women who have cervical cancer have the HPV virus. Just because a woman has the HPV virus, just because you test and you're positive, doesn't mean you'll develop cervical cancer. It is just one of the leading factors. So for example, if you get the test ordered and you take your sample and they test it and they find that you have HPV, what they will do is then they'll go to the next step, which is the pap smear, to see if you have any of those cells are abnormal. So what this new breakthrough does is that it will alleviate the need to do a pap smear for women who don't need it. So women who don't have the virus, for example. So, and it's a very accurate test. So that's the difference between a pap smear and this test, the HPV virus, testing for the HPV virus.
So, doctor, I know that you believe that this will encourage women to get tested, right? But I am wondering, I was reading on their website, the Teal Wand's website, that it's a prescription device for women ages 25 to 65 at average risk. Do you have any concerns that perhaps people may be at greater risk and don't really realize that they are and they're going to go get this exam, or that perhaps we're missing out on having a doctor there performing it and visually being able to see, all of a woman's anatomy to make sure that everything's okay?
So, unfortunately, in the U.S., 4,000 women die every year of cervical cancer. And our research shows that the women who are dying from cervical cancer are the ones that don't have access to health care. They don't have a primary care provider, like you said, to check them physically. And so the reason why this test is so important is because we are trying to reach those women who don't have access. It's making it easier. For example, on the Tier 1 website, women can go and they can order the test, especially women who might not have the time or maybe they don't have insurance. It's much cheaper. Sometimes providers cannot see women unless they're insured. So there's a big access to care barrier there. So Teal 1 has their own team of providers too that can help women get that prescription, for them to be able to get that prescription to get the HPV test read and taken. So despite, it's not this, again, our healthcare system, it's very complex and there's a lot of challenges, but just the availability and having this option of going through a company if you're not insured, for example, and if you don't have the time to physically go to a doctor, this test is making it easier for those women who are missing out on screening.
Dr. Mkuu, we so appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for watching. We've got more great content for you, from news to the arts to the environment. So be sure to like and subscribe to WGCU's YouTube channel and follow us on our social media platforms for the stories that matter to you.